What sound experience would you like today?
I'll have the fantasy pack.
Good choice.
And could you make it a Cloud 2 wireless?
On his way, sir.
Sounds amazing.
Wow.
And welcome back, everybody, to another match of Hearthstone today. I know we just ended the last one on a pretty quick sweep, but we're here for another match, and it is now legitimately the best for last with none other than Coach Jim. How are you doing, man?
Not bad, not bad. It was really interesting seeing all of the aggro in that previous match between Knight and Limberry. Looking at the deck list, we might actually see a little bit slower pace depending on what gets banned here. Each of them have a couple of decks that might go a bit slower. But if we see the bans come out, that could knock it down for us.
I mean, I'm fully with you on that. There's always a chance these games can slow down, and it really just comes down to what you open up with and what you can get down on the board as quick as possible. But, you know, to mention these deck lists and to mention how much slower they are, I'm just excited overall to, you know, finally sit there and see the likes of, I don't want to make sure I say his name wrong because it's a little weird, but Pootis. I don't want to sit there and you know, put some slack on this guy because in every single matchup today, I've seen at least one side or the other. I've casted for them before, like Pie Monster and Steve for our first match. I haven't seen them before, but ever since then, I've sat there. I've seen Wub play before. I've seen Limberry play before. I've seen KingMeelo play before. So it's really interesting to see these new guys come in. Like we just saw, Knight just took this by storm, and I've never seen him play before. And I'm really excited to see if Pootis is able to maintain the same kind of momentum as the new challenger that I've witnessed in my arena.
No, and I'm with you. I've cast for KingMeelo before as well. It's always fun to see more people though, see new people. Just get more of a feel for how the whole collegiate scene kind of ramps out. I would just like to see a round go to 10. I would like to see one of them go to 10. We currently have not seen anything go past 7. I don't think.
We personally, you haven't today. So
yeah, I have not seen anything past 7. I would like to see something go to 10. So we are ready. If they are ready, I think they're both might be still doing deck band. So we've been told by our producer it's going to be 1 more minute. So the question is, Mick, how do we kill a minute?
Well, I think we kill a minute by debating whether or not exactly how aggro these decks are, because I mean, you can sit there and mention the Paladin that that both of these guys are running, which is obviously always a little bit slow. But when we see Pootis running here, the Broom Paladin, it's a little bit slow or a little bit quicker element than your regular run-of-the-mill pure Paladin, because of the fact that you're running these wild pyromancers, you're running these pen flingers, you're running these things to get early minions up on the board and finding a way to get a little bit of ping every here and there. I mean, it's strong against pure Paladin, don't get me wrong. It's usually what tops the meta in terms of trying to find a counteraction to pure Paladin, which is, on a meta behalf isn't exactly all that fun when you're still using Paladin to counteract Paladin. But besides that, overall, I mean, the rest of these decks are just looking like general things that we've seen before. Personally, today, I sat there and got convinced by Aiden, seeing the potential of, the Enraged Warrior. And then watching now, we're going to have more rogues come back in here. And it's going to be another weapon rogue of some sort. And this one not running the Sword Shaper either. So this version that Pootis is running is exactly like the one we just saw from Knight. So whether or not he can get those right draws to open it up and close it out as quickly as he did, that's completely up to those draws, and whether or not he can get the same kind of results. It also comes down to these matchups and what exactly he's facing, because the token drill we're seeing is the exact same as what has been going on all day. And the real only kind of, variety overall that I'm looking at right now would be the Secret Mage. This is the first time I've seen this today.
And I would like to see that deck play. I'd like to see the Druid get banned out. We've seen enough Druid. I don't need to see another one.
Completely agree. Preach, man. I love hearing let's get rid of Druid. Oh, man. Because overall, I mean, Druid, it's so weird how the meta has shifted over time. But it looks like we're going to be seeing them anyways.
Yeah, it looks like we will be seeing them. It looks like both Paladin decks are what got banned out.
So this is going to be completely aggro once again, baby.
Well, except for maybe the Mage.
Mage is Mage in a sense, I will admit, it is a little bit slower, but it's still, instead of the lower end of being slow, like in that little window you have of the lower end of being slow and the higher end of being aggro, Mage still places within the aggro scale. It's still very burny, very kind of getting things over with, getting cards out, finding that control of the board and putting those small minions on down to, just ping them down with your hero power, with those small things you have, with those minions that you get that play off of those secrets and other wind portals and the fireballs, get, an easy little finisher lethal on the Cloud Prince. But besides that, there's just not too much kind of control and board establishment I ever feel with the deck.
However, at the same time, we still might see round 10.
That's true. A little light for the whole kind of sense of the game right now. But looking at both these players and how exactly it's going to go out, we're not seeing we're not seeing either one of these super insane decks going out so far. We do see old Pootis running the Enraged Warrior already and getting a solid draw with that Warmaul Challenger, because if you guys were watching earlier, there was a huge steamroll that happened with that Warmaul. The fact that a Bloodsworn came out, and as well as an Inner Rage, compared with, and just topping on top of that with a Shield of Honor, getting all that on that Warmaul Challenger, it being such a small cost minion, but having those stats and being able to play on it, it's an insane card just overall.
You like the hand he's got. I don't like the fact that he really didn't have a turn one there. Neither one of them had a turn one, really. So definitely slower, because I think, you know, in that last match, somebody was already dying already, right? After turn one? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But there you go. You know, Pootis, round two, still played nothing. So, you know, a lot slower out of this definitely aggro warrior deck.
Now, Mage actually throwing down the Game Master right here is what's most likely going to put Pootis into a situation that he's most looking forward to. Getting a minion down and being able to say, okay, I can throw something into my War Maul challenger. And luckily for him, it's nothing too influential, like, say, a Flame Ward or, you know, a Netherwind Portal, to sit there and play on those spells. It purely just interacts off the fact that Mage doesn't take any damage to face his turn, which she's not going to. But when you have a 1/4 now on board, if he finds a way, a Shield of Honor, like we saw with Aiden earlier, I mean, that could be a huge snowball right here for him to put a possible 6 damage minion on the board and find some way to curve this out and get some massive damage, especially having a Divine Shield down if that comes around to it.
So I'm going to ask, am I the only one having that connection issue, or is that coming from one of the players there? Mr.
It's coming from me as well, but it's never really too bad. It's only like a second or two in those intervals.
Right. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't just seeing it the wrong way here. So another secret gets played.
And that secret is going to be another rigged fair game. So KingMeelo really going all out with the card draws here, really developing a hand. Which I can't say exactly is good for him, because if by any chance Pootis lets this run out and lets that rigged fair game go through by any chance, that's going to be a card burn on behalf of KingMeelo, because he's going to draw the 3 from rigged fair game, as well as, you know, get a chance. But Pootis isn't aware of what that secret is, and he goes ahead and gets a ping on face right there, allowing KingMeelo to actually maintain a hand here before burning anything.
Well, let's see how much they can get out of said hand.
With how much he has to deal with, he's looking pretty beachy right now. You have the Ancient Mysteries to follow up. You know, you're not going to be pulling another rigged fair game. You're not, because it's already on the board. You're not going to be pulling another Netherwind Portal because it pulls a secret from your deck. And if you have 2 copies of Netherwind Portal already accounted for, as well as your rigged fair games, you know exactly what you're most likely going to draw. And in his case, in KingMeelo's case, is most likely going to be a Flame Ward, which could be super beneficial to have an on-command 0-cost Flame Ward whenever you need it. Don't know how I feel about that draw, though, exactly. When you are dealing with the likes of, you know, Enraged Warlock, or not Warlock, Warrior, there's a lot of resources there to deal with, trying getting damage down on the board, finding easy ways to just ping yourself and trade out. But with the likes of an Enraged, it's also an easy trade out, because he could actually Enrage that 5/1 and allow it to kill it. It may sit there and give it that 2 attack, but that's not really all that big a deal when you have it dying off of that trade alone. So going forward, I mean, he's going to have a lot of stuff to play with. Having that Risky Skipper, having that Sky Raider, having especially a Bomb Wrangler with a Risky Skipper. That's such a strong combo, especially when you're dealing with the likes of these smaller minions that Mage throws out.
The only problem I can see at the moment is that Warrior likes to have a little bit more board presence than they currently have right now.
Yeah, and that usually comes down to the kind of version you're running of it. Big Warrior loves to have some board control, loves to have things down. If you're a Pirate Warrior, sitting in the same boat. But the deal with Enraged Warrior is it plays almost on that Pirate Warrior playstyle of wanting a board, but everything is so cheap, you can wait a little bit of turns, kind of arm yourself up a little bit, establish a little bit of retaliation here and there, and because the combos that you have available to you are also cheap, it's really not all that big a deal.
A lot of secrets coming out here, though. And a lot of damage is going to come here as well. Now,
is Pootis going to go ahead and test out this counter spell to go ahead and knock out on that Divine Rager by any chance, or is he going to go ahead and do the whole combo of doing a Risky Skipper into Lord Barov? Because that is a free board clear right there, technically for 4 mana. But it looks like he's instead going to take the chances and get some bombs out and try and clear as much as possible right here and possibly get some pretty good rolls here. Clearing out. Okay. Clearing out the Kirin Tor Mage, which is great because of how much it only had 1 health remaining. And all in all, that's impressive. But, I mean, when you don't have the mana to play another card on this turn, you're not getting fully value out of that. You're not going to be able to ping that down with the Risky Skipper regardless. So putting in the situation where you're stuck with a Secret Keeper on board and you have plenty of secrets to still play, KingMeelo could easily snowball the Secret Keeper, apply more secrets onto the field, allowing it to grow a little bit larger as the game plays out.
100% agree. I find it hard not to agree with your evaluation of most of these. I'm just trying to figure out what is it just a weird hand at the moment? Like, I'm trying to figure out what else is going on here. Is it just a weird hand? Is it a weird collection of cards there? Like, or am I just not understand? Is there a lack of understanding on my part about how all those go together?
Yeah, in a sense, are you referring to the warrior or to the mage's side?
To the warrior.
To the warrior, yeah. So there is going to be a combo here eventually. So far, what he's trying to do is develop board control. Pootis is trying to get these bombs out, trying to trade out these minions, establish himself, because as the game goes on, theoretically, he could just armor himself up all game and be sitting in a perfectly fine position. But he's going to start looking at these combos later on in the game, like when Mage plays the likes of that 4 mana, when she plays the Occult Conjure, when she plays those Cloud Princes. He's going to have a way to clear those out with the Lord Barov. And later on in the game, when you're dealing with things like that, it's great to have a Risky Skipper along with your legendary minion when you're trying to get that Grommash Hellscream down. You're just trying to essentially get him down to 10 damage. You're just trying to get this mage down to 10 health with all this aggro, not necessarily sacrificing the space or enough space to sacrifice for good cards and get those late game, but just enough to where you can play into that combo piece, get enough damage here and there. I mean, this deck does great overall in terms of aggro, but in a sense of there's so many pieces spread out among your deck to where you're having to make different plays over the course of the game in order to deal with what combos you have available to.
Gotcha. Okay, so I was just misreading the hand. Okay, that's on me. I am sitting here at a reconnect. Are you also staring at a reconnect?
I am as well.
Okay, so everybody, our producer included, everybody's staring at a reconnect. Okay. Do we know which player is having the issue? We could stall all day, Caleb.
Looking at the friends list right here, I can go ahead and look at KingMeelo and NECC my friends list, and it's showing that KingMeelo is asking NECC to be the one to reconnect. So it's looking like it's on NECC's part. But regardless, I mean, it'd be unfortunate there had to be a rehost or something with this overall, because this so far, with how weird, as you say, this hand is turning out to be for both parties, in my opinion, it's going to be super interesting to see how they can react and play into it, because you only have 1 damage left on that Risky Skipper. It's probably going to be pinged down. And on top of that, you want to find ways to get more damage. And with only having that Grommash in hand, that's really only the damage you have right now, besides the likes of Lord Barov or something along those lines. And he doesn't have a combo piece to exactly set it up to where it can die to get that immediate reaction of giving a board clear with that Risky Skipper already being so low.
So interesting position for both of them. Our producer said something and I missed it. We've talked a lot about Pootis here. On KingMeelo's side, how do you break down their hand?
I'm breaking down KingMeelo is I feel like the situation he's in with his current hand right now, he's looking pretty good. Having an occult follower in hand is always super good, especially having 2 secrets triggered on yourself right now. And the fact that it's KingMeelo's turn, he has a free way to throw that down. He has a free trade into the Risky Skipper. He's probably was looking to play a secret, though, with the way he played his Flak Mage, how every time you play a secret, you deal 2 to all into all enemy minions. So if he by any chance got a flame ward out of that Ancient Mysteries, he would have been able to throw that down for 0 mana, have 2 mana left to work with to go ahead and get another ping, possibly a damage onto Pootis' face, which he's looking for because he's trying to get it close to that lethal connection where he can find a way to connect those fireballs, connect those the Cloud Princes, and all kinds of means to actually get that face damage and those direct sources of spells and minion effects to get a big old burst of what could possibly be the likes of either 12 damage, whether or not you're playing it through minions or through spells.
So from what I've heard here, we're talking about that KingMeelo basically has everything they need in their hand. They just have to play it in the right order. And from what we've been discussing, Pootis probably has about 1 or 2 draws to find the pieces they need to end it before Mage can.
Yeah, and for Pootis right now, those pieces he would need would most likely need to be something to just counteract this board. Because right now he has a Lord Barov. What he would really love to need right now. Okay. Well then, that's kind of a stinker. So we are being told that the game is going to be rehosted. So everything that's led up in this hand so far, I'm sure KingMeelo is super disappointed about this because he wasn't the one who was disconnecting, and he was the one who actually had a favored hand right now. So that's super unfortunate for him. But, you know, maybe Lady Luck will play into his favor, you know, for having a solid internet connection and can possibly go forward, give him that same exact, if not a better curve going forward to go ahead and just lock in that first game.
And, you know, sometimes, you know, it comes down to, you know, to RNG like we talk about. And then sometimes it comes down to, you know, if it was meant to be, it was meant to be. You know, they had a little bit of a lead there, and if it was meant to be, then we'll be able to go ahead and see what happens. Mr. Producer is going to tell me if I needed to leave that match or if I just needed to hang out. All right, so I'll need to try to get back into that one then, because I thought we needed to leave. Yeah. Hashtag Coach Jim is wrong. You hear it every time I'm on the air, folks. Hashtag Coach Jim is wrong.
But just overall, when you're just looking at KingMeelo, I'm sure also he would be fine with kind of resetting this. Or not KingMeelo specifically, but Pootis as well, because of the cards he had in hand. He didn't have too many combo pieces. So I'm not going to say he by any chance unplugged his router to help himself out, but just overall, he really didn't have the resources he needed. He was in a very sticky situation where he didn't have too much to play. He had to essentially wait till turn 8 to get any damage on the board from what it was looking like so far. I mean, he had the likes of bombs on the board, but Lord knows if that actually goes into face playing in his favor. So going forward, he's going to need more pieces to play into those Warmaul challengers. He's going to need an easier kind of minion to trade it into, and he's going to need more pieces to buff it up to essentially give him that early game lead. Because how I saw it earlier with Aiden, who played, he right off the bat, he got one of those Warmaul challengers. He traded into a man, got it at about 7 health, did an enrage on it, then making it what would be a 3/6, and then giving it a Shield of Honor, which gives that damage minion plus 3 attack and a Divine Shield, putting it at what would be then the 2. Let me carry all the numbers over because it's been a while since I've done math. I mean, it sat at a 6/8. Like, by the time he was really done, you know, playing around with everything. And that's just a huge threat. And if by any chance Pootis can pull off the same exact move and then by any chance get a Blood Swarm Mercenary as Aiden did, I mean, you have a bunch of damage on board. You have 2 huge minions on turn 4, for goodness sake. Like, what exactly can you do to play against that? But issue is, in Pootis' scenario, he didn't have as much to work with and play around with to actually get those situations. He didn't get the pulls he needed out of the Sky Raider. He never really got around to even playing it. Nothing was sticking on the bar long enough, and he didn't get the draws to get a Battle Rage to encourage those card draws. In the same kind of shoes, he also didn't even really I mean, he had the cutting class, but he didn't really have anything else to play with it.
So, looking at it here, I don't know, Mick, if you've gotten into the next game. A much faster, Pootis with a turn 1 play, KingMeelo without a turn 1 play. Turn 2, they got a 1 ping attack off, and they threw a little bit of armor up. So it is now round 2 for KingMeelo. So we're 2 full rounds in here at this point. So a bit different than what we saw in the match that got interrupted.
Yeah. And now we are getting into this next match to see how this is rolling out this time around. About the same slow as a start, but there's a little bit more to it now. Looking like Pootis is in a much better situation with his hand, has a lot more resources to play with overall. But having those Warmaw challengers, having a Blood Swarm mercenary, having those tools to play with. Issue is having that Kobold sticky finger isn't exactly going to do them all this well in this matchup because Mage does not run any weapons. But having a Risky Scaper, having that Bomb Wrangler, having a Sword Eater to go ahead and get some damage on the board with a weapon, it's all seeming to play into his favor right now.
Well, the anchor they had on the board, giving them some card draw, helping them get through their deck to find the rest of the pieces they need for the big combos that you talked about earlier.
And overall, just also KingMeelo also having just an equally strong hand. Maybe not as going to be as lucky in terms of the pulls of secrets. Getting those rigged fair games last time back to back and having plenty of resources to work with. This time around, getting a Flame Ward fairly early, which he would have probably liked to have later on in the game to get a much easier board clear, and all those damaged minions are going to be popping up here soon enough. But he does have that Jandice to work with this time around. So giving him some way to put himself on the board, giving him some little toys to play with overall. And I mean, maybe Lord knows he could pull something out of this Ancient Mysteries, but even then, there's not too many other minions for him to play with this time around. He doesn't have those occults. He doesn't have the cloud. He doesn't have those kinds of tools in his kit to get those direct face damage like he did last time to go for those direct trades, because otherwise he could make one right now.
It looks like they will get the minion off the board, though.
We have many secrets.
And the rigged fair game going to go down.
And with that, I think that's a good kind of bluff right there for this warrior, because it's going to force him to utilize that weapon and instead go into face and pressure a little more damage onto the man. It's going to put him in a place where he's, allowed to get that rigged fair game off. He can play with the game a little bit more and start, trading out the board. But Mage, if he by any chance pulls, there it is, that Flak Mage, he's going to have a pretty good chance of finding ways to retaliate later in the game, because Warrior, I mean, in this kind of version, it's pretty easy to shut down when you have a lot of AoE kind of damage dealers, which already one of them has been used to that Flame Ward. But having that Flak Mage, you can sit there turn 6, say Pootis gets a huge influential board, you get a Flak Mage and you find ways to pull all these secrets and play all these secrets for cheap, from little to nothing. It allows an easy little clear and at least 6 damage on the board overall. And from the looks of
however, with the we were talking earlier about Pootis having different combinations and what they needed for the combination you were talking about earlier, they have available in their hand.
Yes, they do. So when you break it down, though, it's not going to be as influential this time because he is missing that Inner Rage. The minion he traded that Warmaw Challenger into was a much bigger threat last time. He sat there and had to trade that Warmaw Challenger into a minion with 4 attack on his name. So he took 8 damage during that exchange compared to, like, say 1 or 2 that he would have settled with in an earlier kind of matchup with weaker minions. So getting it on that buffed minion is actually huge for KingMeelo, because in this situation, Pootis probably doesn't want to invest all of those resources into something that's really, really close to death at this point.
Speaking of having to take their time and make a choice here, Pootis trying to come up with what they want to do. It looks like they're just going to go for the armor at this point. Probably not a bad call.
Definitely an easy call, I would say. very kind of safe playing, just showing, maybe I don't need to trade anything in right now. I go face a little bit. I sit there and maintain the damage. He's going to probably trade to me because he knows what kind of player I am, what kind of deck I'm running. So with that, he can just feel free to go face and let the minions be worried about on the mage's behalf compared to, him dealing with that himself. Now we are possibly going to see the fly mage coming out, maybe.
Ancient Mysteries.
Notice that we see the costume enchanter, which is actually going to buff that flak mage, letting it stick a little bit easier. And with that 0-cost Netherwind portal, really letting that flak mage stick to the board. That's really good on behalf of KingMeelo right there.
We've got to round 7 though, plenty of mana, so we'll see if what we can get as a combo here from Pootis. Plenty of cards in hand, plenty of different directions they can go.
Yep. And going with the avenue of that Blood Bowl right there, trading out into that Flak Mage, which was such a threat. I feel like Pootis, that was his biggest intimidating factor right there. And the point of these Blood Boils, what a tongue twister. But overall, just finding a way to get that traded out, because when you deal with a 5/4 that can sit there and do 2 damage to all your minions, if you're trying to establish a board, that's definitely something you need to be getting off and getting out of your way. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to build those combos with the Blood Swarms, with the Shield of, and all kinds of deals going on right there. You don't have as much to play with that time around. And maybe next turn, if a mage doesn't build too big of a board, which is looking like with this Cloud, he possibly could be, because those Cloud Princes are just big threats to themselves, already doing 6 damage and putting a 4/4 on the board. I don't know exactly what Pootis could be looking for at this point in time, because a Barrel would put everything at 1 in health, but he doesn't have the piece to clear the board with it.
Going to the face though, just keeping the pressure up, you force KingMeelo to do something. If you just keep the pressure up, you force something to happen. Mage with some of those control pieces, some of those control aspects, you kind of want to hold something back, I feel, at times, just to make sure your opponent can't just combo out. But, if you could just keep going right to the face, you're going to force them to do something.
Yeah, and KingMeelo doing a great job with that right now. Constantly putting pressure onto this man, making sure he has nothing on the board to play with, where Warrior's instead spending his turns trying to develop a board rather than trading out the one he could already have down. So this is going to be a pretty good stance right here with this Barov and having that Inner Rage right there, but it's not exactly enough to finish him off to allow him to get the board clear that he's looking for. And if he manages to get it by any chance and could train to that mage, he could stop a rigged fair game. He could stop the card draw, because, if he manages that, there is no rigged fair game on the board for KingMeelo right now. He only has 3 secrets to deal with, 2 of which are already in play. So his hand really only having 1 real option here.
Well, and looking at it, that, the hand advantage going to Pootis, more options, where if you can continue to make KingMeelo play things in response to keep that board presence, to keep you from going off, KingMeelo's just going to run out of cards at some point. He's not going to have as many options.
There goes the first counter spell. And that gives him 1 more thing to play next turn if he ends up getting another Flak Mage, which should be an easy clear for him, having all these cards for such a low cost of mana. Especially the rigged fair game. He would have to get it off at this point. He'd have to find a way to trade these minions in and make sure that he doesn't get damaged this next turn, so he can get more cards to play with.
Here's the problem, though. Pootis almost has kill on the board.
He does.
He almost has kill on the board there, so you have to make plays here. You have to keep moving. Yet you have to trade out here, because all Pootis has to do is catch you at this point. And yeah, you've got a million secrets now, but you've only got 1 card in hand. There's not a lot you can do with those secrets. And if they could find a way to do damage to you, the rigged fair game's not going to go off. And then you don't really have a lot to do, and you're running out of time at this point. Just running out of time if you're KingMeelo.
Yeah, and when you're in the shoes of KingMeelo right now, you need to be looking for minions. You had so many spells up front, so many things to help boost what you had. but besides that, you really don't have much else to work with. I mean, theoretically, Pootis, if KingMeelo did not have this plethora of secrets on the board, he would have an easy way to just charge in with Garrosh or Grommash, excuse me, and finding a way to just ram him into the Mage and finding a way to get that. But Mage has finally gotten a chance to get these card draws and get.
Wait a minute, did Pootis not do anything that turn?
He didn't. He passed it.
That's an interesting pass. That's a very interesting pass.
He didn't have anything to play with it.
I think it's a good move, though. I think it's a great move.
There comes a Mirranity, which could actually be pretty interesting here. Because he's probably going to Bloodsworn one of these to get a chain trigger. There it is. And he has the potential to get another one. Because this Risky Skipper is going to sit there and trigger a bomb. It's going to get 2 more on the board. And if he plays the other Bloodsworn by any chance, he could get a lot of bombs on the board. He's probably looking at that as that's most likely his only way to get this clear besides Barrob, but I'm not sure why you would use it in this case after you've already used so many resources to get those. Once you get those bomb wranglers down, you're going to be killing those and you're not going to get the effects as well. Actually, you do. It triggers those, all the bombs will go to face. So that's a good play by Pootis, actually.
And now
the issue is he didn't get the trigger
still on the board. Kill's still on the board. And if I don't think he's going to keep Barrow alive, but if he could, Shield of Honor would have been great there. 1 more mana would have been awesome. Shield of Honor would have done work there. He's looking to top deck.
He is indeed. If he finds a way to. Issue is with this, even with this Grommash, it has 4 attack just outright. So I mean, regardless of getting the enrage effect off, you still
you don't need
lethal.
it. You don't need it. So there we go. Top deck. How to top deck like a pro, right there. A seminar in 2 parts. Number 1, think about what you need. Number 2, draw it off the top of your deck. How to top deck like a pro in 2 parts.
But an interesting little finish right there from Pootis for round 1, knocking out that warrior. And regardless, I mean, I don't know if there's really anything that Mage could have done in that situation. I mean, if you had another Flame War by any chance to help clear that out, it really wouldn't have done enough to help you because that would have only triggered Grommash's enrage factor. He would have gained 6 attack off of that, and it just would have been overkill at that point. Even more so than it already was. It was a -1 in total. So at this
as
point,
we look at that though, the thing to point out there is that KingMeelo did not have the hand. KingMeelo had spent everything trying to slow Pootis down, and at the end of the game, they just didn't have anything in hand. Had spent all of their resources.
Yep. And at this stage in the game, Pootis may be the one to be running out of resources just as equally quick with this token druid, which is usually about burning your hand and making sure your minions stick with what you threw down. So starting with the hand right here that he's got overall, finally pulling a Gibberling right there, that's going to be great for him, but he's got a way to turn in order for it to get triggered. And with Mage having that coin in hand, he could possibly go ahead and shut that down with a hero power.
He could.
That's exactly what he's going to do.
Yep.
Next turn opening up a lot of kind of avenues for him because he already has that Flame Ward in hand. He has the Ancient Mysteries in hand to create another secret from his deck that's going to cost 0. So, I mean, theoretically, in all chances, even if, Pootis ends up getting a board by any chance, if he doesn't play the Arbor up on any of these and finds an opportunity to let those minions live, I mean, this Fungal Fortune is definitely going to help out his case overall, but if he doesn't get a chance to trigger any of these, Mage could easily just throw down that Flame Ward, and Pootis would have to read it perfectly, know exactly what secret it is, not attack into it, and then spend another turn buffing his minions, which in turn gives Mage a chance to counteract and trade into those.
Gonna get the damage right to the face, though. Gonna get the extra 3.
Oh.
And didn't lose anything. No minions, so didn't lose any of those cards. And now has a pretty good hand. Not the best draw, but he's getting closer to what he needs. When you draw cards like that, yeah, you might not get exactly what you want, but you're putting what you want closer to the top of your deck.
Mm-hmm. Lots of cards right here for Pootis. Goodness gracious. Having the bees out, only being able to take out one of the minions with that, but also have to constantly be wary of that counter spell, which is coming down right now. It's a good thing, though, he saved that nature studies, because that's always going to open up another avenue and possibly give you another buff, which is exactly what he gets with Power of the Wild right here, and tree enforcements, which is just another thing to help out when he gets the arbor up down. Allowing him next turn.
Thinking about playing it, looking at it.
I don't know about that.
I don't know if they're just bragging that they've got it, or if they're thinking about playing it.
I mean, it's a strong card nonetheless, but overall, you want to sit there and let it wait a turn to, you know, buy out that Glowfly Swarm next turn, get more value out of that, because, I mean, how it's looking right now, having 6 spells in hand, I mean, Pootis could easily fill his board next turn if he draws in a spell, which he does, allowing him to throw down that Glowfly Swarm. No, he's probably testing for the counter spell right here. Knowing it's not down, he's going to throw out the rest of them. And then if only he had a Call of the Wild to chain into that lightning blow.
If only, if only. Then again, board position has reversed here, which we knew we were going to see with a druid a token druid. Board position's going to be usually in favor of Pootis, even if it doesn't look like it is. Mm-hmm. However, next round, going to have 6 mana. They're going to be able to play some cards from hand here. They're going to be able to get some stuff off.
I wonder.
And damage to face is going to start to add up here, Mick.
It is indeed, because now he's going to be able to have this. He's going to have that flame ward to throw down on top of this, clearing this board. If Pootis so does decide to not read into it and attack face, which is usually token druid's whole kind of scheme. So also getting just a lot of good trades out here, diminishing what he just established overall. He could have bees, but he'd only sit there and get so much damage out of it. And if he goes ahead and allocates and goes for those trades, I mean, which he's going to, he wants to get those bees buffed. He doesn't want to waste buffs if they're not going to apply themselves to something. So he's going to go ahead, get the bees out, trade him in to possibly, that leftmost secret. No? What's he going for here? All right, buddy. I say if you're going to go somewhere, go with that leftmost secret keeper or that game master, because that game master, that's not a fun thing to play against, especially there it is.
There we go.
But he's going to be buffing this and allowing, unfortunately, the arbor up, if he so does decide to trade into the mage, is going to end up killing this whole board. He just spent so much mana making, and he reads it for the most part, deciding not to trade in. Interesting play right there.
Very, very interesting play there. Has the board control, and we're looking at it. I mean, I'm reading 23 damage on the board. Are you reading the same? 23 damage on the board. So that's something that KingMeelo has to look at. There's a lot of damage on that board, and you don't know what's in his hand. We know what's in Pootis' hand. So, in fact, he's got game in hand.
That's true with that Savage Roar. I mean, he would only need the likes of 2 of those minions to really survive. Issue is he's going to need the health onto those minions to allow them to survive. And having that Dr. Krasnov is not going to help you in your case, because he knows it's going to be the fake. He's going to go ahead and trade it out. And that is a big clear and a really good pull right there on KingMeelo's behalf to get that taunt out, which usually you would have to sacrifice mana for the next turn for, but he got that on top of a rush for free to negate this board. And he's going to probably utilize a lot of resources right here just to get that 7-8 off, because that thing's going to stick and it's going to do a lot of damage.
Well, here's the thing, though. If you, the Blessing of the Ancients would have, he's going to trade him out here, but would have given them enough to survive the Flame Ward. He's going to get rid of the Flame Ward there, though. Nothing wrong with that play.
Nothing wrong at all. Finding a way to get some more minions on the board And theoretically, if these stay on the board with those two, he will have, with those 2 Savage Roars, if he can chain everything together, those would each have overall 5 attack. That'd be 10 on plus with this with the 4 that he would get. That'd be 14 damage. He'd be left at 9 health, which isn't exactly a situation you want to be sitting at, because
Blessing of the Ancients is going to. So at that point, it's even more.
He can't get all of them off on this turn, though. He's going to have to figure out when and where to play each one of those.
My apologies.
I mean, Secret of Soul of Forest is good, but how good is it right now? Is the better question. He's going to find a way to buff those up a little bit, make sure they don't get both traded out immediately, forcing those Occult Master to actually trade into one of those to be able to kill it. But even at that stage, he has Soul of the Forest for both of those. So he's going to have to utilize 2 of these minions to actually create a survivable board, because with this, even if you trade these out, combined with that Blessing of the Ancients and those Savage Roars, that's going to scale a little bit better in Pootis' favor.
And here comes the straight damage, which we've been kind of waiting for. Well, that gets interesting real fast. With the Glowfly Swarm available. Glowfly Swarm plus the Savage Roar. That kind of turns the game around a little bit.
It does, especially knowing that there is now no Flame Wards left. Both of them are being utilized now. One was popped off very early in the game. One's gone now. So he knows that he has full reign to play with this field as long as he can get enough spells to throw them out. And in this situation, I mean, if I was him, I'd probably go ahead, pop the Glowfly Swarm, get a Blessing of the Ancients on it, and it's like he's reading my mind, man. Can you hear me? Pootis, are you watching? That's not cool, man. We're on a 10-minute delay. But overall, I mean, it's the best option. He has to get these minions in a situation where they can't get cleared out very easily. And next turn, if he pops both Savage Roars, that's an easy lethal for him.
He doesn't even need both. He just needs one of them. Now he might need both. Now
we knew KingMeelo wasn't going to let that slide. Anybody who's facing a token druid, they are not letting these guys in any shape, form, or fashion trying to let these minions survive on board. So he's probably going to pop a fireball here just to close out another one, to where in that case Pootis would have 6 damage plus the overall 12 that he gets. That would still actually be lethal with Savage Roars.
No, there's plenty of damage coming through there. So this is the only way to stop it. So let's see if the top deck once again.
He already had enough with the Savage Roars. You do the 2 3s combined with the Savage Roar giving his face attack as well. With that addition, it just adds up too much right there. He has more than enough right here. He clears it out with the minions alone.
To be honest, I forgot that the Savage Roar gave it to your champion as well. That was on me.
So with game 2, favoring the aggro once again, Pootis is going to take round 2, being closed out, and his last deck remaining is going to be Rogue. And this is the Rogue we just recently saw from the likes of Knight, and he absolutely steamroll his competition with it.
So here's my question for you. Does KingMeelo double down once again on the Mage, or knowing it's going to be Rogue, do you play something else?
Following most tendencies I've seen today, a lot of people haven't ran the same deck 3 times in a row. And KingMeelo is going to follow that exact same trend and say, you know what? If you have some success with Token Druid, maybe I'll give it a shot.
All right.
So it really comes down to Pootis' opening hand.
That's the hand Pootis wants, I think, though, right?
He doesn't exactly have a self-sharpening sword or a nitro boost like we saw with Knight earlier. He does have a Spy Mistress, which is a very, very good turn 1. It's a very easy way to go ahead and start off and get things rolling. With that coin, that's going to help out with that secret passage overall. But what Pootis is looking for now, after he plays that Spy Mistress, he's going to want to get that 3 damage off and find a way to steamroll whatever's left. And maybe he'll go ahead and play Greyheart next turn before he takes the stealth off of that Spy Mistress in order to get that card draw instead of having to go ahead and burn a Secret Passage.
Or both. Not in the same turn, obviously, but having extra cards in hand, as we've been witnessing, if you got more cards in hand, you've got more options. You've got more things you can do, which is going to give you an advantage.
Mm-hmm. Which nonetheless, though, KingMeelo is also having a very good start here. He has this Lightning Bloom right here to go right into a Power of the Wild, giving all these minions, turning them into 3 health minions, and that would be just enough for the Spy Mistress to trade into one of them. And he would have to find a way in order to trade out some of these minions and find a way to let them survive, because after that, when you have a Rising Winds, I mean, KingMeelo has the world at his fingertips at that point. He can decide either I want to draw a card or I can go ahead and flood the board a little more because I know this deck isn't running any AoE spells. It's not running any kind of clear. So as long as I can find a way to out-tempo this guy, force him to trade into me, I should be sitting all peachy today.
And this is going to get really fun really fast. As Pootis getting what they need off those draws early there. You know, playing the Greyheart Sage, got the draws they needed, got some of the board cleared away. It's waiting for every part that they've got in their deck to show up.
Sneaky Delinquent, good job of board control right here. You can trade that in without getting any real kind of damage onto your board, allowing yourself to set yourself up for those trades later if Meelo does indeed find the cards that he needs. And the Tree Enforcements is probably going to be what he's going to choose right here because it's cheap, it's nice for him, and it just plays right into his archetype of what he's dealing with. Now, question is, with him eyeing this Rising Winds, is he going to be looking for another card draws, or are you going to finally start establishing himself on board? And he's looking like he's going to be opting to find some more minion summons. And the Arbor Up, I mean, no doubt is it a good card to play. Issue is, you may, if I was in a situation, I'd probably say that for the next turn. So you can go ahead and get those Arbor Up downs. You can summon that as well, and you can get a Power of the Wild with the Lightning Bloom and find plenty of ways to buff that up and get it to be super strong.
And that's going to be another Greyheart Sage. So 2 more cards in hand here for Pootis. And yeah, there we go. Deadly Poison. That's what one of the pieces they've been looking for. It's not it's not the only piece they've been looking for, but it is one of the pieces they were searching for in that deck.
Now, overall, with this Lightning Bloom, KingMeelo does have somewhat of a free board fill. If he goes ahead, plays that Solar Eclipse, runs the Arbor Up, which is exactly what he's doing, and just playing the board as best as he can, and he's going to have 2 6/4 minions, which those 3/3s cannot trade into without using some kind of resources from Pootis' hand, and 2 4/3s as well. And then consider that you have a Savage Roar and a Power of the Wild, which you could call upon pretty easily. I mean, albeit you are going to be slacking, you're going to have to choose one or the other with those 2 overloaded crystals now in play. Overall, I mean, this is getting pretty interesting in terms of what both players can do, because, I mean, it's looking like a face race right now, and it really just comes down to Pootis not trading those out. Are you going to start sticking to the board and trying to counteract this, or are you just going to cave in? And it's looking like KingMeelo has more than enough.
That's game. And there it is.
KingMeelo with his first win of the night. After getting 2-0'd, he's now sitting at 2-1. And no matter how well he does with the rest of these decks, he's still going to have to close it out with that Secret Mage one way or the other.
One way or the other. Pootis just not getting what he absolutely needed there. I mean, he got a good hand, just not a great hand. Not a hand that you want to see against somebody of the caliber of KingMeelo.
Yeah, the biggest thing about that whole set and about that whole deck is going to be that self-sharpening sword. The fact it took him so long to draw through all those cards, to draw an extra 8 cards out of nowhere, just trying to find those resources and still not having enough to counteract the token druid, just shows how strong of an archetype it is overall. And the fact is, he still couldn't find a way to pull those sharpening sword after that to put enough pressure on the face with that nitro boost and force him to say, I need to use everything right now, otherwise I'm going to die next turn. Just like Aiden put what in the situation of earlier and didn't get really around to.
Now, I mean, that's a hand I like right there. And Pootis is going to throw away most of it. Just goes to show what I know. Hashtag Coach Jim was wrong.
Well, the Spy Mistress is always going to be a strong start.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
going to be
always.
kept 100% of the time. I can tell you, I can bring it up on HS Replay right now, and it'll probably say 99% of the time they will keep that card. But when you really break it down, the rest of those cards aren't all that strong. The Ping Flinger, albeit, is going to be great, but when you're facing the likes of another Rogue now, it's not going to be as strong as you wanted it to be earlier.
We're going to have some chances here, though. His board position looks really good for Pootis at the moment, especially with what they have in their hand.
Yep. I can say, looking at the stats right now, pulling up the mulligan rate here for the Spy Mistress, it's actually telling me I'm being informed that Token Druid is the worst matchup for Weapon Rogue, sitting at a 37% win rate up against it.
RNG, baby. It makes liars of us all.
Yes, Spy Mistress is kept 97% of the time in every mulligan that it's being held in. 97.
I'd keep it 100%.
I'm just trying to figure out who the other 3% are and how they're so wrong.
Maybe they're named Coach Jim. Who knows?
Goodness gracious.
Yep. There it is. When I make the other caster facepalm, I know I've done my job, folks. So there you go.
But looking at what we got going right here, yeah, KingMeelo is not looking pretty right now. He needs a self-sharpening sword as well, which he actually draws now. So he does technically have an upper hand because that's what this whole rogue archetype is surrounding right now, is that exact weapon he just hovered over in hand. So you can go ahead and ramp it up, find ways to buff that weapon, get more damage on it, especially having that Dr. Krasinov in hand as well to give it a more duration and another couple damage to it, a couple hits on it as well. That's going to scale even better for the Steel Dancer, and that's why Steel Dancer is so popular in this archetype. And I'm surprised that, Knight wasn't running it earlier, because say if you do have an 8 attack self-sharpening sword and you don't have the likes of a perfect hand to go ahead and execute the enemy hero, that Steel Dancer would give you a free 8 cost minion to just go ahead and set up that lethal say, if you don't kill me, you're gonna have to kill this. And if you're worried about this minion, I'll get to you right afterwards, creating so much pressure on the board.
With that being said, though, KingMeelo has what they need, but they still don't have anything on the board, and down half their health at the moment.
Mm-hmm. So looking to see where these trades are going to come in, he's probably going to trade into that Infiltrator, which is going to be the best play he can really result in. Next turn, if anything does come down that sticks to the board, like that Sneaky Delinquent, it's not going to be the best draw right now because he wants to trade that Dr. Krasnov into something after getting the self-sharpening sword. He wants to get that more. He wants to get more durability to the weapon. He wants to let it last a little bit longer. He wants to play with it some. But I mean, time's running out for this man when he's facing up the likes of a Pain Flinger, which is going to get at least 2 more damage on top of him, on top of 4 damage from this Eviscerate. If Pootis draws an Eviscerate next turn by any chance, then this game is over.
Yes. And actually doesn't even need the Eviscerate.
If he just sits there and hero powers and uses that 3/1, he wins this.
Well, and the Pen Flicker back in hand. Yeah, no, there's our producer.
Yeah, there's multiple ways.
There's multiple ways he has lethal here.
Yeah.
I think this was just over.
As me and Caleb mentioned the fact is he could go the route of going with that hero power and going with the Sneaky Delinquent because it can't be touched right now. With the fact is none of those spells can target it. The only things that can really deal with it right now will be an AoE spell. He can't go ahead and sap it back into hand. He can't mess with that minion whatsoever. So stick it onto the board. He has that. This taunt is going to do something for him, but how much is the real question. If he sits there and pulls any kind of thing which clears up that taunt minion on board, then this is going to be lethal. I mean, Dread Corsair coming in great right here, and I think that could be it. If he plays this right, he has enough for lethal. Now, I'm not in his shoes to do the calculations, but I know for a fact if he ping flingers face, he preps it, takes it back into hand, plays it again, does the prize plunder onto the Dread Corsair. He has the room to.
There it is.
Oh,
Once again, Pootis putting on his two-part speech on how to top deck like a pro. Number one, know what you need. Number two, draw it out of the deck. Two-part seminar, top decking like a pro. And that will do it. And we'll see Pootis take out KingMeelo in 4 rounds.
Oh, man. It's just... as much as I love this game, man, the fact that aggro is always winning, it's just so... It breaks my heart. It really does. It just breaks it.
Mick, if you're that upset about it, go build a non-aggro deck and go stop people and make it the new meta. If you don't like the meta, go make a new one. That's the way it goes. If you don't like the meta, go make a new one. Prove that you're right. Because
I will say, coming up here soon, within this next month, there is going to be a huge shift in the meta that all these players are going to have to adapt to. The whole core, which I know I kind of touched on this last week, but the whole meta is going to be flipped on its tail. There's going to be all the core cards that have been released. Most of the core cards that are part of the classic set that first released with the game Hearthstone, they are going to be traded out. They are not going to be a part of it anymore, and they are going to create new versions of those cards that better fit the power curve that's come over the course of the past couple of years since the initial release of the game. Plus, at the same time, cohesively, there is going to be a new expansion coming out, Forged in the Barrens, which is going to also create a whole new kind of dynamic. And this comes down to Blizzard and how they want to play this overall. They have played into the aggro meta for so long, and I feel like this is finally the time with them saying the foundation of the game is now going to be turned around. This is an opportunity for a whole new Hearthstone to expand, and that's why I am looking forward in this next month whenever the new cards come out and players are learning. It's going to be so much fun and so interesting to see how they play this out, what new decks are being created, because the game is going to be it's like going to be Hearthstone 2.0 at that point.
You heard it here from Mick first, people. You heard it here from Mick first. Mick looking for non-aggro options in the meta, hoping that's what Blizzard gives him in the near future. You heard it from Mick first. Not from me, because hashtag Coach Jim is always wrong. But you heard it from Mick, and this man hasn't been wrong yet. Mr. Producer, is there anything else you need from us this evening? All right, so Mick, do you have anything else?
Nothing else really besides just everybody have a good night. I'm fixing to go wrap mine up. I've had a long day of Hearthstone, but it's been enjoyable nonetheless to just watch and cast. Maybe not as enjoyable to sit there and think of myself in the player's shoes facing all these aggro decks, but besides that overall, hope everybody just has a good one, and we will definitely see you here next Friday.
All right, and with that, that will do it for NECC Hearthstone tonight. You've been watching the NECC on twitch.tv/NECC_esports. He's Mick, I'm Coach Jim, and that'll do it.
What sound experience would you like today?
I'll have the fantasy pack.
Good choice.
And could you make it a Cloud 2 wireless?
On his way, sir.
Sounds amazing.